Welcome in, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Voice of College Football call-in show. This time on a Tuesday afternoon or somewhere in that vicinity, Eastern time. Thank you so much for waiting in the live chat. A few things I need to get accustomed to and schedule into my time would be that the call-in system takes a lot longer to set up, which is a good thing because the call-in system has been tremendous. And once again, our thanks to Bobby from Volunteer Roadshow for setting us up with once I was purchasing the call-in board, or the audio board, I should call it. It's an audio board that can be used for more than just call-in shows, but that he has set us up with the call-in studio and cleaned up our call-in process, but it just takes a lot longer, and I need to incorporate that into the setup. So my apologies, and I will do much better in the future. And then, hey, I got to admit, sometimes when you're in a nice hot shower and you just don't want to get out. And that was me 15 or 20 minutes ago. Just didn't want to get out of the shower. Just nice hot shower to kind of start my day. I've been up for 3 or 4 hours, but to kind of start this portion of my day here at the Voice of College Football. I've been scanning the headlines, looking at news, preparing myself for some records and other activity later in the day. Got a segment coming up with Steve Dace, Michigan podcast, our 10-minute war coming up later today. Florida State going to be recorded later today, and some other content for all of you. So be checking out those videos. We posted one regarding Oklahoma recruiting and the offensive line and linebackers, the defensive line and linebackers at Oklahoma. That was posted earlier today. Yesterday was a look at Oregon football. Not many views on that. And if you really want a nice overview of the Oregon football team from a really nice guy and a really energetic guy and enthusiastic guy, knowledgeable about Oregon football, Ryan Winter joined us yesterday. That video posted yesterday, an exhaustive look, like a 30-minute look at Oregon personnel, look at the program, look at the recruiting, look at everything involving the Ducks as they head towards spring practice as well. And we're going to release our review of the Oregon schedule as well. The phone lines are open at 860-499-3332. Let me get that number up here since it is new. There we go, 860-499-3332. I was listening to an extremely intriguing, interesting guy last night on YouTube who helps YouTubers build out the platform and way beyond YouTube, because this is, to be honest, not going to be successful. This venture that I'm undertaking just on YouTube, it's not going to be successful just on YouTube. It's got to go way beyond YouTube. And so I was listening to this guy and some of his programs, and the guy just has a remarkable story. I wish I could pass on his name. I'll have to pick it up at some point. Remarkable story about health issues in his family regarding his wife and losing so much in the housing market crash from 2008 and just being at the bare bottom of his existence, and how he was able to build this just multi-million-dollar business. And it's phenomenal. And give back, which is my goal, to give back. So that captivated me late night last night. Hours and hours of just looking at his story and his products and everything that he does for the greater good. That has always been my goal long term, and in my heart to do long term, to do some good out of this, not just talk college football. But that's what we do today with you. Les Miles fired last night. Good move by Jeff Long and the Kansas administration. This is just a blatant case of a coach who does not know how to handle himself, does not have much integrity, ethics, morality, and this has been going on for 20 years. So it's gone from Oklahoma State to LSU, and sure, even if every thread of evidence doesn't come true, if every incident, every possible violation doesn't follow through to the nth degree, and some of it's made up, maybe look at what happened at Oklahoma State and look at the program he ran. He just brought it to LSU. He not only turned a deaf ear and a blind eye to misconduct, he perpetuated it. He encouraged and built an environment that led to that kind of behavior. He's responsible. He's not the only one responsible, but he's number one in line. And so does Kansas University want to be employing a head coach who's losing and displaying that kind of behavior, that kind of morality? Of course not. I would have fired him immediately once it's verified. I, as much as anybody, believe in innocent until proven guilty, but he was guilty 15 or 20 years ago. So this has just been, and had he experienced what he experienced and perpetuated and been responsible and accountable for at Oklahoma State and then changed his ways, absolutely. I believe in second chances, third chances, fourth chances, but no, he's the same guy. He's been the same guy. And who knows what's been going on at Kansas. And even if he cleaned up his act at Kansas, which is highly doubtful, they still have no reason to keep him. There's absolutely no reason, because most likely he's still the same guy. Number two, from a PR standpoint, they just don't need to be answering questions about Les Miles every day forever and have that type of presence hanging over their football program to be walking into the living rooms of families trying to recruit their sons to play football for him. And number three, he's losing anyway. It's not okay. He went 11-2 last year. Let's see if we can, let's fight this out to the end and see if we can get him off, and let's see if he's changed, and let's see if some of these allegations are not true. All right. So that's what we've got going here today, is to talk Kansas football with Les Miles. And my question was, who is the dream coach for Kansas? Realistically, and I know that doesn't make sense. That's an oxymoron. If he's the dream coach, then it's a dream sequence. So bring in Urban Meyer or Nick Saban. But we'll keep it within reason. Who's available or could be available and would be a great fit for Kansas football? Because I'm going to state this right now. Kansas can win in football. It is possible to win at Kansas. And I'm not just saying that because it has happened. 2007 being the pinnacle of Kansas football, in which they could have actually played for a national championship. They came real close to playing for the national championship or the BCS championship. We know what national championships are worth. So, yes. And when I mean winning, I don't mean scraping by at 7-6 every year with a bowl appearance. They can win at Kansas. And I'm not talking about the other end of the spectrum, annually competing for college playoff appearances. I mean, they can go 8-4, 7-5 at Kansas. Kansas can look at Iowa State and say, we can be them. If we get the right guy and we all get on the same page, and it starts with the president and the higher levels of the administration wanting to win in football, not just basketball, wanting to win in football, it can be done at Kansas. It can be done. All right. My name's Mark Rogers, voice of college football. That's me, and that's also our platform, meaning, yes, Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, but you've got a voice. Our guests have a voice. We all have a voice, and together we are the voice of college football as well. So you have a play in this. You have a part in this that is vital. Otherwise, I'm just sitting here talking to nobody. So your voice is just as important as mine, as long as it's logical, makes sense. So we're going to call people out if they're factually incorrect. You guys know me. I've been commented to about being kind and patient and understanding and all these good attributes that I would like to be in my normal life outside of this. But when it comes to this, yes, I apply that, but also I'm going to tell it like it is. I'm not going to pull any punches. And I'm going to call people out if they're incorrect. All right. Or don't make any sense. We're also available on Patreon. Please join us on Patreon. 15 cents per day. Patreon. Please join us there. Exclusive live streams and more. Please join us on Patreon. Also, hit that like button. And also keep in mind that we have an Amazon link available to you if you shop Amazon, and most of you do at some point. Please use the link in the description section of any of the videos. Go to any video, grab the link that is next to the Amazon listing in caps, and grab that link. Put it somewhere where you'll remember it, and please shop Amazon. All right, let's get to it. We've got a call coming in from our friend Dominic, who wants to talk about, now this is a shocker. Dominic, I'm not going to believe it until I actually hear it. Dominic wants to talk football. Dominic, how we doing today?
Doing good and yourself, Mark.
Oh, I am doing just fine. Let me get you transitioned on over to the right setup here, because I never know that that's going to switch over in default. Now I believe everyone can hear you. I'm doing great today, Dominic. What's going on?
Not much, really. I actually wanted to answer your question about who would be the Kansas dream coach.
Fire away.
So you said two coaches. One of them was Urban Meyer, and I can't remember the second.
So you have two coaches as dream coaches for Kansas.
Yep.
One is Urban Meyer. The other one you can't remember.
No.
Okay. All right. Did this just leave your brain during the phone call? Since it's a dream sequence, and Urban Meyer is not going to be coaching at Kansas, and that's, you can take the question one of two different ways. You can take it as, okay, complete dream, just this person will never coach at Kansas, but this is who would be best for Kansas football, and that seems to be how you're taking the question. Or you could take it as, I think some people in the chat, as a realistic great hire for Kansas. I think Vince Lombardi would be a great coach at Kansas. Maybe that's who you were thinking.
You know what? I think so. I think so too.
I'm just trying to figure out who your second choice was.
Well,
Pete Carroll?
You said, oh yeah, Pete Carroll.
Was it Pete Carroll? Okay.
Yeah. So, if I had to guess who would be Kansas dream coach, it would have to be Pete Carroll, honestly.
Okay. All right, Dominic, thank you so much for the call. You've got anything else?
No baseball updates or anything like that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for calling. You have a great day.
Yep. You too, Mark.
So Dominic took the question all the way to the hilt, which is fine. I said dream. So we all dream all sorts of crazy things. Let's get to the chat. Jobo, rehire Mark Mangino. Not like the school's reputation will get any worse. Is there anything wrong with Kansas's reputation? Are we talking about football? Football reputation, yeah, it's about as bad as it can get. All sorts of people on time at noon. Not me. My bad. You guys can talk it up, though. You guys can see the chat, right? We can, yeah, you guys still talk to yourselves and talk to others in here at that point. The Rod Farva, you can't have a college football opening without mentioning Urban as the first candidate, just like everyone else. We got Lewis here. Yes, I was going to get into this topic about Ohio State having to pause spring practice. Not really looked into it. I doubt if there's much information about it, just that they had either somebody test positive or they had somebody contact trace back to somebody else. I hope that's not the case. I hope that they didn't have a player that contact traced back to somebody off the football team, not on the football team or part of the football organization who has contracted COVID, and that they're shutting down the entire operation for that. The contact tracing has been taken to ridiculous extremes that I don't think are necessary and have not proven to be necessary. Patrick, Kansas Dream coach is the Wizard of Oz. Well, the Wizard of Oz turned out to be pretty much of a wuss. The Wizard of Oz is a bit of a joke, of course. So you just pull the curtain back and he's this little Weasley guy that's afraid of everything. The UAB coach has been proposed by Lewis Papp. Bill Clark is doing a nice job with UAB. I believe they've won 3 consecutive conference championships, something in that range. Ronan just wants the trend to continue. So, yeah, Kansas would look completely ridiculously foolish and buffoonery if they followed up the Les Miles firing. We need to get rid of Les Miles and his shenanigans and his corrupt behavior and hire Bobby Petrino. Good one, Ronan. Rich Rod. Rich Rod was the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss 2 years ago, 2019. I don't believe he was in 2020. Where is Rich Rod right now? Rich Rod. Let's look him up, because I don't think he's still at Ole Miss. Of course not. He's not at Ole Miss because Lane Kiffin's calling the shots. So he doesn't need an offensive coordinator. Rich Rod right now. Oh, so he is currently, whoa. Associate head coach. Okay, I thought I missed something there for a minute. Offensive coordinator and associate head coach at the University of Louisiana, Monroe. Bob Davie or Lou Holtz. That's a dream sequence, Lewis. Talking Lou Holtz circa 1985. Rich Rod better than Harbaugh. I know the rap on Jim Harbaugh has become pretty extreme, and he's brought it upon himself. But those Ohio State losses are one thing. But to compare him to Rich Rod, Rich Rod's final performance at Michigan was in the Gator Bowl against Mississippi State. Not a great Mississippi State team. Not that they've ever had a great team at Mississippi State, but a decent team. 52-14. Whew. Got the ace too here. Good to see you. Yes, I believe the same, that USC should have done everything possible to get Urban Meyer. The Rod Favre is telling us that Georgia is now doing an internal investigation after allegations have come out. I'm sure they'll find plenty and do the honorable thing and report. Of course they are. Yes. I'll have to look into that. Don't know anything about that. Yeah, from everything I've gathered from talking to a number of people, the whole USC Urban Meyer thing was just a fan-generated connection that was obvious to make. Elite football program, elite coach, put them together. Urban's looking for the next challenge. He's looking for the next place he can win a championship. USC is looking for elite status again. Put them together. But yeah, they did not want each other. The Rod Farva, understand that USC does not play at the Rose Bowl. But yeah, basically the Rod Farva has summarized it well right there. Urban Meyer had no interest in USC for those reasons of just not being committed to football and having the money and resources, or using the money and resources to better themselves. And then USC did not seem too interested in Urban Meyer and possible issues. I'm glad that you guys enjoy the 10-minute wars with Steve Dace. I was just telling somebody a few minutes ago that I am certainly appreciative and honored that he would want to do these segments with me, and we both want to do them, of course, or we would discontinue it. But sometimes I wonder, I think, when he will feed me a topic, typically on Monday or Tuesday, send me an email and say, we're going to talk about this and whatever you got for me. And I typically think, man, when it comes to Michigan football, and that guy's just a talker, regardless. Some people are gifted to just talk. I'm not one of those people, but some people are just gifted the gift of gab. I'm not one of those people. It's not difficult or hard for me to talk. And if I put some thought into it, I can say something that makes some sense, but it's just not my gift to just sit here and talk all day and have it just roll off my tongue. For that guy, of course, his number one job, politics, and then he moves it into the football realm, and he can just talk about anything and talk interestingly and eloquently about it. And then when it comes, he's right in his wheelhouse with Michigan football, and I've got to go into his arena to talk Michigan football on a weekly basis. And I sometimes think, what do I have to add to what he's not already going to cover? What could I possibly add to this? What could I bring up? Or what kind of perspective would I have on Michigan football that he hasn't thought about? But it seems to work. The Ace 2 believes that Oregon will be better than Ohio State, I guess, this season. I will have to look into that, the Rod Farva, because I will produce some content on that. If Miami got a commit for 21 last night, someone who was originally committed to Tennessee, I'll have to look into that. I covered 3 different commitments yesterday. Those are posted on the Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State channels. Good to see NCIS Fanatic 21. Dr. Love, good to see you. Yeah, I did not look into that. The Rod Farva mentioning here that LSU's AD was reportedly set to fire Miles in 2013, but was overruled. I saw like a paragraph on that, but I didn't read heavily into it. Matthew not too happy with Turner Gill being ousted at Kansas. It's one of his guys, of course. NTI's Fanatic 21 looking for Jamie Chadwell, the Coastal Carolina coach, who certainly has owned Kansas on the field, to get a Power 5 job. But I would think that Jamie Chadwell could do better than that. Dr. Love, any Kansas fans out there still have Kansas' greatest win 23-3 over number 1 Oklahoma in 1975? Yeah, I do recall that. I was not around to watch the game from that standpoint, but I know of the reference there, Dr. Love. But I got to think that Kansas football team did not finish with that great a season, whereas I would think their more significant wins were in that 2007 season because they almost went to the BCS championship game. Kansas football in 1975 finished at where are they? 7-5. 7-5. They lost the Sun Bowl to Pitt in 1975. That's a Pitt team that, with Tony Dorsett, that then parlayed that bowl win into a national championship season the next year. Kansas football, yes, they beat Oklahoma, number 2 in the AP, 23-3, November 8th, 1975. The 2007 team, I believe, lost to, was it Missouri or Oklahoma late in the season that tripped them up? They're 12 in 1 year. There it is, Missouri. Yeah, so they were 11-0. They were number 2 in the country on November 24th. Think about that. Kansas football, number 2 in the country on November 24th, 11-0, lost to Missouri, 36-28. Then they beat Virginia Tech, a number 5 team in the country, Virginia Tech, in the Orange Bowl, 24-21 to finish. Guess they finished second or third in the country. They were number 8 going into the bowl game. That this is Kansas football getting disrespected here. They were number 2. They lost to Missouri, who was number 3. Is that Chase Daniel or Blaine Gabbert? Chase Daniel. They lost by 1 score against Missouri, the number 3 team in the country. You're number 2, you lose to number 3 by a touchdown, and they dropped to number 8. I don't know that would have happened to other teams. Then they finished up with a Orange Bowl win against number 5, Virginia Tech, to finish whatever they finished. Top 3. Matthew, Nebraska fan, likes Craig Bull from Wyoming, doing a nice job. Willie Fritz from Tulane. So we're more in the realistic category now. Brady Hoke. Patrick, good point. Kansas just needs to look to Manhattan to know that winning is possible. Am I a runner? I'm not a runner. I will go out and walk and do a little running. I'll run some sprints. I'm not like a jogger. Now that the weather's starting to break a little bit, I'll get out and walk every day. And I usually do anywhere from 2 to 4 miles, nothing extensive, usually closer to 4. And I'll run some sprints. I like to run some sprints because, believe it or not, there was a time in which I was fast. Not fast anymore, but I still like to run some short, 20 to 30 yard sprints. So I'll mix those in, little intervals. That's it. NCIS Fanatic 21. Smash the like button. Yeah, if you're just interested, not necessarily in building some kind of legacy or career, and you've got a nice little job in San Diego as the head football coach, and you are bringing in, he's got to be getting paid $1 million, $1.5 million. That's not bad. You live in San Diego, that has the best weather in the country, a lot of things to do. I'm gonna sit right there. It is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. Love it there. Don't know that California is going to be my destination now, though. I would have told you 10 years ago that if I could live anywhere, I would live in California. That has changed. Okay, there's another dream scenario. Bill Belichick to Kansas. John Cooper's only 78. 78's the new 60. It's not that old. I got your point there, Mo. Oh, we got Navy Thomas chiming in. Mancino was too physically on the players. He is done forever. Yeah. Kevin Sumlin. Okay. You guys are in the realistic category here. That's an interesting one right there, Matthew. Kevin Sumlin will run a highly entertaining offense, if nothing else. I don't know that he's the guy. I don't think he is the guy. I think he's proven not to be the guy that's going to elevate the program to be the next Matt Campbell. That's who I would be looking for, the next Matt Campbell type that can go to Kansas, the Bill Snyder of the 1980s and 90s, and elevate Kansas football. Jeff Long actually mentioned in looking for another coach that we need to win football games. Gotcha, Rod. John, just getting here, so I don't know what's been discussed, but is the Kansas AD about to fall too? Searching for both AD and head coach might be coming. So unless I'm missing something here, there's not been any wrongdoing that we know of at Kansas. It all has to do with Les Miles and these allegations being confirmed and coming to light at LSU. And so then Kansas not wanting to be associated with, and it's understandable from where I sit. The guy is losing football games at an alarming rate. He has a past. So if these allegations were strictly from LSU and they had yet to be proven, which it sounds like they've been proven and there's more to come, I am for innocent until proven guilty. But again, we've got the Oklahoma State situation that was awful. He goes to LSU. It's being proven that he ran the same type program at LSU, and now he's at Kansas. And even if he hasn't done anything wrong at Kansas, which I doubt it, get rid of him. There's no reason to keep him. There's no reason to keep him. If he was on a Matt Campbell trajectory on the field, then maybe you wait it out and see if you can possibly save him, or that he's changed, or the LSU allegations aren't as bad. But there's just no reason. I will have to look into that. Rod, about Cody Brown, running back switch to Miami after being committed to Tennessee for 21. Jordan, I think you make a good point. It's valid. It's arguable. Is Coastal Carolina a better job than Kansas? Well, they're a better football team. I would rather go work at Kansas. I'm not talking about location. I'm not talking about being in South Carolina close to the beach versus being in Kansas. That's not from a football standpoint and the potential of doing something at Kansas. Coastal Carolina is just never going to be a factor. They will just never be a factor. They just, until things change dramatically and they get to a major conference. Guess the best Coastal Carolina would be UCF, Cincinnati, Boise State. Kansas has the opportunity to be a major factor in the Big 12. It's a long ways away, but it's there. This temporary shutdown of football operations due to COVID at Ohio State isn't going to be a big deal if they just push everything back and still have, and I would think that they would still get in all 15 sessions toward a spring game and just back everything up. Now, if it costs them time, if they decide that if this goes on for a while, that they can't spill the spring game and the practices deep into May because of academics, then that's an issue because Ohio State needs the spring. They need these quarterbacks to be on the field throwing the football in 7-on-7 drills and in full squad workouts, full squad scrimmages. They need reps, and they're not, in a sense, game reps, of course, but they're throwing the ball against a defense and with players that are better than the players that they're going to be playing on Saturday. So the Ohio State quarterbacks, the three of them that are competing for the job, Kyle McCord, CJ Stroud, and Jack Miller are going to be getting reps, valuable reps against defensive players that are better than anyone they're going to play the whole regular season. So if they miss that, if the spring practice is truncated, I think that's a big deal. I normally wouldn't say that. I wouldn't think it would be just a huge issue or a challenge for a place like Ohio State. But I think in this particular season, because of what they're facing at quarterback, for the first time in 50 years, they don't have a quarterback on the roster who has thrown a pass in a college game. Dale is asking if the Ohio State football team is getting vaccinated prior to the spring game. I would think that they would have enough leverage and pull to have vaccinations available to them. I don't know if they've made that decision. Carl Dunn, Les Miles' part of report is just a smokescreen of what is really going on at LSU, not just the athletic department. So yeah, the Les Miles part of it may be a smokescreen for the current administration and football program at LSU to deflect it and say, that was all Les Miles stuff. Sure. But I don't think it's a smokescreen in regards to it being illegitimate or not founded. And I don't like to be making these statements about things that haven't been confirmed, but Les Miles, again, Oklahoma State, that was all confirmed and that was all blatant and horrible. And then he comes to LSU, and we, even without this report, there were other violations in the past that have been confirmed and just other incidents that would make you raise your eyebrow. And if we had one incident, one player with one potential victim, okay, let's see that play out. Let's get it investigated and tried. But we're talking about 8, 10, 12 players, multiple dozens of incidents. Yeah, the Navy coach is exceptional, but would he leave Navy, Ken Nuimatalolo, to go to Kansas? Yeah, it's a tough one to spell. We could do a spelling bee of sorts, a college football spelling bee here. and he would be probably the championship round. Nui Matalolo. Ken Nui Matalolo. I believe that's the pronunciation of his last name. So it would be Niu Matalolo. Is that right? Check me on this one. Nailed it. Niu Matalolo. Bam. Okay. Do I have a Final Four? Dr. Love, I covered college football. College football, yes. That's a news flash. I cover college football. I did cover college basketball for a long time, and specifically when I worked in Mississippi and covered the SEC, and I was went to a lot of NCAA tournaments and SEC tournaments, and actually covered a Final Four in the Meadowlands in 1996 when I was just a young lad. I should drop the link of the 25 year. I believe it was the 20-year anniversary. This would be the 25-year anniversary. The 20-year anniversary of Mississippi State's run to the Final Four. Syracuse, Kentucky, and UMass were also there. John Calipari with UMass and Rick Pitino, Jim Boeheim. If anybody has any interest, which you probably don't, but have any interest in seeing me broadcasting in 1996. But it's a nice little documentary put together by the folks, the fine folks that I used to work for at WCBI. But anyway, to your point there on the Final Four. No, I was in the gym on Saturday or Sunday. I believe it was on Saturday. And I used to watch Ohio State basketball closely. I was not an avid, crazy fan, but I watched it and rooted and was a solid fan of Ohio State basketball at one time. I don't even know. I have no idea. I don't know a player on the Ohio State basketball team from the last 7 or 8 years. And so I was at the gym and I'm walking by the TV screens and I see Ohio State, Illinois is on. They're in the final couple minutes. It's a close game. And I see that they're ranked 4th and 7th in the country. So I stood there for a couple minutes and watched some baskets, but then there was a timeout with like 45 seconds left. And I just didn't have enough interest to wait through a timeout to see the end of the game. So I don't know who won the game, but I thought this is the most college basketball I've watched I watched some of the tournament a couple years ago, but it's been forever. So Final Four, my Final Four is Purdue, Georgia, Stanford, and Kansas State. Somebody looked up Brady Hoke's contract there in San Diego. 330 base, 670 in supplemental compensation, which increases at $50,000 a year. Nice $50,000 a year raise. Ty Whittingham. What happened to him? Are we mixing up Ty Willingham and Kyle Whittingham? Okay, Dale. Ty Willingham, former Notre Dame Stanford coach. Kyle Whittingham, current Utah coach, who would not leave Utah to go to Kansas. Mark D'Antonio. Interesting. Gene Smith, Kevin Wilson. All right, I get your point there, John. Since this AD hired Les Miles, and they're not happy with the AD anyway, yeah, maybe they put him. I was thinking that there were allegations at Kansas. That's what you were bringing up. Yeah. Glenn Mason. Glenn Mason hasn't coached in forever. What was his last year at Minnesota? Like 08, 9. Matthew, bringing up another good name from Buffalo, Lance Leopold. Dr. Love, Mark, how about a way too early to predict the 2022 national championship game matchup? I got Bama, Ohio State. Who you got? Well, let's keep in mind that somebody sitting right here picked Alabama to beat Ohio State in the national championship game in August. Okay, my national championship game this year, way too early, 2022, Georgia, Oklahoma. Row the boat. Why can't OSU be more adaptive? We always seem to have an archaic mindset. Well, I have no idea what you're referring to. Are you talking Oregon State or Oklahoma State? Lee Smith channel likes Clemson, Oklahoma. Paul Johnson, what's he doing these days? Ah, 28 AD 28. Mark Rogers to Kansas. Yeah, at least we could get 25,000 people to the game. And on the team channels, add those up. I think we're pushing 50,000. Maybe I'll have a 50,000 celebration. The Rod Favre, Mark, I've been getting a lot of your old videos in my recommended feed from 5 years ago. Watched your video with Sonoris Moss last night. That's funny. Watch them. Pass them on. Hey, especially if they've got ads on the front. Here we go. Row the boat explaining here. My archaic comment, Ohio State is rarely, if ever, proactive and usually late with poor decision making, ever reactively, and that's unacceptable. Still don't know what you're talking about. John's got a nice point there. Maybe to go to the MAC for a football coach who has recruiting ties in the Midwest. Of course, Matt Campbell came from Toledo. So let's look at this Ohio State story here. I want to see if this is probably not going to tell us much, but I want to know if a player tested positive or this is just due to contract tracing. Okay. Okay, positive test. This comes from Mark Schlabach. Ohio State has paused all football-related activities and closed its athletic administrative offices for 1 week after an increase in positive tests for the coronavirus, the university said Tuesday. The Buckeyes said the decision to pause football activities and close the Woody Hayes Athletic Center offices was made jointly by Athletics Director Gene Smith and head team physician Dr. Jim Borchers. Quote, out of an abundance of caution and with the health, safety, and well-being of the student athletes, coaches, and football and facility support staff. The decision was made after a round of PCR testing Monday. We've been successful in safely hosting nearly 100 athletic events on campus this year with limited disruptions. But this pandemic is not over. We will continue to stress the safety measures of wearing masks, consistent and through thorough hand washing, physical distancing. The Buckeyes are scheduled to start spring practice on March 19th. So football operations cease for 1 week from today, would be March the 16th. So it still doesn't necessarily affect football practice unless it affects preparations, which will cause them to push back practice, but it doesn't seem to put spring practice in jeopardy at this point, or any portion of spring practice. Yeah, Lewis, we've been talking about that for days, just in regards to what Les Miles did at Oklahoma State. ESPN put together, or not ESPN, Sports Illustrated put together a remarkable piece of investigative work on the Les Miles tenure at Oklahoma State, and that was released probably 5 years ago. All right, folks, it's been a good time here at lunch talking college football with all of you, seeing your comments and your suggestions on Jeff Long's move as athletic director at Kansas and replacing Les Miles. Both realistic candidates and a lot of guys that I would not have thought of. I got to say that I gave it no thought coming on here. It just popped into my head. Hey, Les Miles is gone. Who could Kansas get to resurrect that program? So we will follow that. Of course, you know that we'll have analysis. And once that man is hired, I will give my opinion on the hiring, as I always do. Ohio State has shut down football and really all athletic. I wonder how this affects the basketball team. Forget the football team, but the basketball team in particular. All right. We do have a call coming in. Let me grab this real quick. I certainly apologize if I missed this caller in queue. It's the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports.
McD, what's going on?
Good. I'm doing good. I was going to call you a few nights ago about your top 25, but I do want to talk about this Kansas coach real quick.
Okay.
Who's going to be the new Kansas head coach? Whoever wants the job. I mean, if they hire you the job, I mean, would you take it just to say you're a Power 5 head coach?
Would I take the job?
I think they're going to have a really.
I would love the challenge of seeing how I would handle that. Yeah, and of course, I'm not qualified. I'm stating this right up front. I am not qualified to be a football coach anywhere, but there are certain things that I've gathered in life, in my experiences, that I could tackle that job in certain ways and do it justice. But in other ways, I would be completely overwhelmed and wouldn't know what I was doing. But if I surrounded myself with the right people, I would be fascinated just to go through the experience, even if I was just totally beaten down and just looked to be a fool. I would go through the experience.
I will agree with that because, I mean, they're going to have a tough time getting someone to be the head coach there. I mean, I don't see a big name going there. I mean, they got lucky with Les Miles, honestly, going there. And I don't know who's going to be the head coach for the Kansas Jayhawks. But, Mark, you got Georgia enough to win overall?
Yeah.
Why? You got to tell me why.
Why? Well, I explained it the other day. Basically, they've got a returning starting quarterback who is one of the 10 or 15 best quarterbacks in the country. They could have lost a truckload of NFL talent, as they typically do, as teams like them do on a regular basis. Most of the guys that they expected to lose decided to give it another go at Georgia. So they are stocked and loaded at running back, wide receiver, offensive line. The defense, they have a couple impactful losses, which for most teams, you compare them to a similar program like in Ohio State, they have and Ohio State's most likely going to win the Big Ten and compete for a playoff spot. And they've lost tons of talent. Georgia has hardly lost anything. I think that they are. Now, understand that I was selecting in order what I believe to be the 25 best teams in the country. I did not compare them to the schedule. I didn't like take the schedule and then make a prediction. That's not my final prediction. That's what it stands, how it stands for me right now in looking at 2021, that I believe Georgia has the best football team in the country.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is because you're going top area, way too early top 25 that I saw Georgia number one. That was the reason why I asked that. Because I personally, just from looking from afar, I think Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State are all of them are better than Georgia.
Okay.
I want you to say for you, I'll be taking all four of those to Georgia.
Well, it's not going to surprise me if we get to the end of 2021 and those four teams are better than Georgia, and Georgia's, let's say, the fifth best team in the country. It's not going to shock me. I think there's.
I just thought that was bold by you to do that. That's all.
Possibly. It's not like I said
I don't disagree with
Iowa's the best team in the country.
So I just want to get your reasoning why on that, because that was the only early top 25 I saw Georgia number one was yours. So
yeah, I'm not doing it for some shock factor. If I was going to do a shock factor, I would say Northwestern's number one or something like that. Anytime I put an opinion out or an evaluation, sometimes it's right in line with everybody else or most people, and it seems like a boring take. But if that's what I truly believe, then that's what I'm going to put out there. Other times it's completely off the beaten path and it's completely different than everybody else. And I'm not doing it for shock value. I always just deliver my true evaluation and opinion. I don't have like an ulterior motive, like somebody accused me of the other day of, serving a certain fan base, that I have a certain take on things. No, that's not me. And nothing that anybody would track in my rankings and predictions and evaluations of teams and players and history would point to me favoring anything because, I think I'm going to please somebody or cause a stir or anything. And I'm not saying you're accusing me of that. I know you're not.
Yeah, I just wanted to see the knowledge behind that. One other quick question before I let you go. Why are people highly rating Penn State, but they're saying like, oh, well, they're going to sit there and beat Maryland easily. When Maryland went into Happy Valley, beat them like a drum 35-14 last year, and the game is in College Park this year. Why are people saying Penn State has like an 80% chance of winning that game?
So people being whom? You see people that are saying that Penn State's going to easily win that game when you're seeing what projections of the season for Penn State?
Yeah, I've seen it several times over several YouTube channels and all that.
Well, to your point, they are playing on the road at College Park, and Maryland had a better season. Well, they pretty much had a similar season, but Maryland trounced them head to head, but Penn State did play better after that. I still think Penn State's slightly better, but I don't think they're overwhelmingly better. That I wouldn't be surprised if you told me today that Maryland was going to win that game again. Wouldn't surprise me. I did sneak Penn State into my top 25 around 21, I believe. And
that's all right. I don't think they should be in the top 25.
Okay. Well, we have nothing to go on right now except for what happened last year. And what I think I explained this. I take what happened last year, which I think is not as quite as valid as it typically is because of the season we went through. So I take that and then I look at, okay, do I think that team underachieved or overachieved, which I think that Penn State underachieved. And then what are the personnel losses? What are the personnel gains in recruiting and through the transfer portal? And spit out, okay, these are the teams that I believe are the best and how they should be ranked. Now, when I make my predictions for the season, I'll do all that, but then I'll match it up against the schedule and say, I think Penn State's going to be 8-4 because I believe that they're this good. Plus, I think this is the schedule and who's going to beat them or has a strong opportunity to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. I'm just saying, I think people agree. And that's all.
Well,
but we'll see.
Well, the one thing that you're right in that assessment is, regardless of whether people are right in where they're estimating Penn State or wrong, Penn State is going to be given more of the benefit of the doubt than Maryland is. If people have doubts about Penn State, they're just going to look at what James Franklin has done previously and think they're going to be okay, versus Maryland needs to prove something.
You're right about that. I can't argue that.
Yeah, some of those selections in people's top 25s are just kind of default selections.
I get that. I just don't see it, really.
And I'm not saying that's
right. I don't know if we're going to beat Penn State this year, but I don't see it.
All right, McD. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have for you.
I appreciate it.
My call,
Sure. Man, McD, Maryland, Penn State, that was one of the big shockers at the time because Penn State was supposed to be good and started out preseason, I think, number 7. Then they had the fluke against Indiana, which ruined their season to a certain extent. But at the time, the thought was, okay, they still might be really good. They just lost this game in which they dominated Indiana in terms of yardage and all the metrics, but blew it at the end. And then, of course, they had to face Ohio State the next week, and that's pretty much when the season unraveled because they had to win that game to have a chance to win the Big Ten championship. I was fairly impressed. I'm not going to overstate it, that James Franklin took an 0-5 team and got them to play hard enough to win 4 straight games with nothing to play for at the end of the season. Now, they were more talented than all those teams, except maybe Michigan. But yeah, the Rod Farva, hopefully your YouTube algorithms are working, and other people will have the same impact on their YouTube algorithms where 5-year-old videos from Mark Rogers TV are popping up. I'll take that. All right, everyone. Appreciate everybody stopping by. We will be releasing content as we always do, multiple times per day. Probably release too much content, but it's hard for me not to cover and attempt to cover all of college football and not do that. So more and more, some of this content will be reserved for the team channels. For example, just in the last couple of days, I've posted recruiting evaluations on Penn State, Oregon, and Michigan that were not on the main channel, but on those team-specific channels. If you want to help us build the vision, please check out the team-specific channels of your choice. Or again, if you really want us to build the vision with us, then in particular, let's get Michigan and Oregon up to 1,000 subs. That's a key metric in the YouTube algorithm. So Oregon and Michigan both are between 850 and 900 subs. So please help us get to 1,000. All right. Be looking out for those notifications for when we go live. The next time we go live for sure will be Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern time, Ohio State Buckeyes live. We'll see you then.